there is no fitting at all to go from M12 by 1 bubble flare to 9/16 18 standard flare. Same thing on the M10. There's literally no such thing as those fittings, at least nothing I could find. I had heard about people going through several different fittings to get there. So here's what we're going to do. I want to give a big shout out to my local AutoZone and Evan, the manager over there. We spent a fair amount of time in the back trying to come up with a plan here. So here's what we came up with. I got this nitro copper, this Nicop. I got two of them. They're both 3/16. Unfortunately, I couldn't do anything with finding a quarter line, so I'm hoping the 3/16 will be okay. So I've already got bubble flares on either end. And what I could do is I'm gonna cut these, and I'll have two lines, each with a bubble flare, and I'll put a new end on. So I've got one that's M12 and one that's M10. Well, actually, these are already M10. So I've got that on the one side, and then I've got my fittings to go on. The one's a 3/8, standard 3/8, and the other is a half. So I bought a half and a half. They're both going 3/16, so I'll end up with M10 on one, 3/8 on the other, M12 on one, and half on the other. And I'll just flare the ends of these new lines and basically just recreate these two lines, and everything should be good, and I'm not going through a whole bunch of adapters. The only downside is, again, I'm going from 1/4 inch down to 3/16, and I'm hoping that doesn't cause a problem, but I'm going to try it that way. So long and the short is I'm just recreating these two lines with the correct ends on them. Ends for this side, ends for this side, and hopefully that all works out. And since I will now have two lines with bubble flares on the other side, the remaining lines, what I've got left over here, are going to become my bench bleed. So I'll have an M10 and M12. Little extra line, run it right back in here, and I'm my bench bleeders. So that's the plan of the day. The other thing that I needed, because we're abandoning the vacuum, I don't need the piece going to the vacuum, so I went ahead and bought cap for the end of this. I had to buy a variety pack, and just so you can see the part numbers that I'm using today, and again, these are out of AutoZone. CNE 310 and CNE 320, these are the same thing, they're just one's longer than the other. That's all they had was one of each. You can see the steel nuts that I'm using, caps to Dorman ends, and my ends. So I'm hoping if anybody else is doing this, this is helpful. If somebody had done this for me in this, well, assuming this works, if somebody had done this for me, it would have saved me hours of research. So I'm hoping this helps someone. Okay, I'm going to start cutting and flaring and making some lines. Alright, so I've been working with the file and inside of a drill, and I got my bracket now oblonged enough that it'll go over the post. You can see that on the newer style Hydroboost that the posts were a little bit closer together than on the older vacuum pump, or vacuum can rather. And so I had to oblong those, and I know if you're trying to reuse your older master cylinder and shortening the rod so that you can use that, you'd have to do this to the master cylinder as well. So there's what everybody's talking about. All right, a couple notes as we're going along here. I've gone ahead and installed the master cylinder and the bracket. Just wanted to see how everything was going to fit. I may at this point just leave them on, but there are two studs on the plate here. You can't see it too well in the camera, that are sticking out. You see the top one there, and there's one on the bottom that actually hits the bracket. And the only way I could found that you could put the bracket on is since I had the nuts from the Hydroboost, and I had the nuts off of the vacuum assist, I had 4 nuts, and the only way I found that I could make this bracket fit was to do this basically this double nut to offset the bracket and set it out. But even if I'd found those adapters, you can see you'd still have to bend the lines around a bit to make them fit. Actually, the original 3/8 line going to the rear is actually too short now, and the front one, you can see would have worked, but would have to bend it around a little bit to make it fit. I also, just as a comment, some people talked about going to Hydroboost and somehow making that easier to change your fuel filter, which is behind everything there. I don't see how this makes any difference whatsoever in that regard. It looks exactly the same to me. You have the same restriction on your room where you've got to reach down underneath and go underneath your pipe and basically reach under there to do it. It's a pain in the neck, but it's not impossible. So anyway, that's just a little note. I'm going to go, since I have this in here now. Now's the point at which I'm going to go ahead and make the two lines to go to my pressure differential here, and get those put on. Then I'll probably take them back off. At this point, I'll probably just leave all this on. I'll put my bleeders on up into the can, and I'll just use the brake pedal to pump it and bleed this out, and then start hooking everything up and bleeding the system. Then we'll be ready to get to the Hydroboost lines and return, vacuum, bleed out. I'll probably flush out the entire power steering. I mean, that's brand new, so that'll be a new in the reservoir. The only thing I have to flush out is whatever's in the steering box itself, and the whatever old stuff might have been in the Hydroboost. We'll just hook up this return line right here to a can, run the truck a little bit after I put everything back on it, obviously, and we will flush the system out a little bit. All right, my routing may not be as elegant as the original with the bends, but I'm not touching anything. I'm not interfering with anything, and so now I've got something without adapters on it. Bent these tubes around, kind of kept all the kinks out of them, and I've got them in there. So that connects my old standard up to my metric master cylinder without much trouble. This nickel copper is nice and easy to bend, so that's made this job a little bit easier. I didn't have to worry about bending steel, and they seem to work. So the part numbers I listed earlier seem like they're going to do the trick, provided I get away with this 3/16 instead of quarter line on this one. I hope so. And generally smaller line, higher pressure, larger line, more volume. Hopefully it's okay. We'll find out. Anything's an improvement over what this thing was, that's for sure. Okay, on to the next. We're going to make up some bleeders. All right, master cylinder is filled and bled. I just went in there, and you can see I took the remnants of that nickel copper and had enough ends. I just made 2 bleeders, got some simple 3/16 hose, routed it around, and pumped it a million times, and I think I've got that all bled. And so now I'm going to hook everything up, and I think I will bleed the entire system. I'll start back at the rear, and then I'll do the front at the discs, and then I think we're ready to hook up the power steering stuff. All right, another quick update. Apparently you can't just go where a 1/4 inch line was and put 3/16 in it with a flare. Right off of this, I just could not get this to seal for nothing. It kept leaking. So one more part to add to the collection. This is a reducer from 1/2 20 down to 3/8 24 standard line. So I'm going to swap that in there, put the reducer in, and then I think I'm finally there. So we're going to cut another end off here, take off our 1/2 adapter. I think I got 3/8 24 here somewhere. If I'm not mistaken, these should be 3/8 24. 7/16 24. Uh-oh. Well, we'll find out. Anyway, we'll make it all work. All right, it's been a long afternoon and way too many trips to way too many parts stores, but I think we're finally there. So I've now bled the master, and I've got everything hooked back up to my manifold here, and I've been pushing on the brake pedal, even though I haven't bled the back at the rear or the front discs yet, and I'm not getting any leaks up here at my pressure differential switch. So that's good. That's one more thing down. So we've gone with the NICOP lines, which made them easy to bend. 3/8 24 adapter, half down to 3/8 24, 3/16 line, M12.1 fitting. And on this one, it was the 7/16 20 and the 3/16 line up to an M10 by 1 fitting. So that's the magic combination that got us there. So now it's all hooked up, and it's a matter of bleeding the whole system, and then we'll start putting on the power steering lines and getting power to the Hydroboost.